Hi, thank you very much for the support that you've been giving us for the purpose of this channel. So the purpose of this channel is just to give information about relocating to Ireland, either on a job or on a study visa. So I had talked in the previous video that I talked about the fact that somebody needs to have a study visa to move to Ireland to study, and you equally need to have an employment visa or some sort of sponsorship for you to take up a job in Ireland. So I just want to say that in Ireland, there are so many opportunities for different categories of people, both like highly skilled to semi-skilled, and just to, I don't know how to describe them, but for the purpose of this video, I'll just say normal skills, like, electricians, like trades, like electricians, masons, and carpenters. So there's a variety of employment. And what matters, what determines what employments qualify for sponsorship is the skills, the needs of, the skills that are needed at that particular time. So for instance, this year there's been an accommodation crisis in Ireland. So there's a lot of construction that is taking place. So the construction industry needs a lot of skilled workers, and this will be electricians, plumbers, masons, carpenters, and not when I'm talking about electrician, I don't mean electrical engineers. However, it's important for you to know that when you are taking up a job, you are taking a job that can get you that sponsorship. Because without the sponsorship, you see, the sponsorship now is what we call the work permit. That's what we call the work permit. So for you to get a work permit, you must have a job offer first. So you get the job offer, then they apply for the work permit. That is, your employer applies for a work permit for you. Then that is when you can now get the visa now to come to Ireland. And when you come to the Ireland with the visa, that will be the visa to enter Ireland. Then you have to register at an immigration officer. However, not all jobs can get your work permit. So in this video, I want to talk about the list. There is a list that is called the ineligible list. So the ineligible list will be a list of it will be a list of, and I'm just trying to search in my phone here so that I can give you examples, and I'll put the link here. Ineligible list of employment. So this will be the list of employment that are like prohibited, not for the lack of a better word, that you are not allowed to take as a non-EU citizen. This will be a list of employments that cannot give you sponsorship unless otherwise. And I'll just give you like an example. See, this will be like categories such as, managers in hospitality and social and leisure services, leisure and sports facility managers. For instance, you cannot come to Ireland as the manager of a gym. Managers in healthcare services. Another one here, and I'll put the link down here. There's property, housing, and estate managers. So, for instance, working in an estate company or a real estate company, garage managers, waste disposal and environmental services managers. And these are just broad categories: therapy professionals, welfare professionals. And when we talk about welfare, we do not talk about healthcare assistant and social psychologists and all that. Those are not welfare professionals. Health associate professionals, and there's health associate versus health professionals. So those are two different things. Dental technicians only. This is there are different categories, welfare and housing associate professionals, housing officers, protective service occupation, and the list goes on. Police, for instance, you cannot be a police community support officer. Legal associate. So with the exemption of employment of a person fluent in an official language, for instance, if you're a legal officer dealing with issues of Africa, or issues of let's say a specific language like Swahili or Zulu, then technically there is no person, or there will be no skill in the EU. But remember, there are lots of East Africans who are in the EU and they have gotten the EU citizenship, so they might actually fit for that profession. So then it doesn't mean that this list is 100% prohibited, that you cannot take up jobs from this list. There are some exemptions, and these are normally exemptions whereby the employer can show that they have really looked for employees in these categories and they have been unable to fail. So in that case, you might get sponsored on that, and there is normally a threshold of of salary. Then there are two types of permits that you are likely to get, what people call sponsorship. So it's either you get a general work employment permit, or you get a critical skills employment permit. So the general work employment permit, and this is normally a very gray area, they say any other role that is not in the critical skills and is not in the list of the ineligible employment, ineligible skills. So if it is not in the ineligible skills and it's not in the critical skills, then it falls under the general work employment. For instance, truck drivers are not in the ineligible list and they are not in the critical list, so they fall under general work permit. There are some categories of accounting jobs that is not in the ineligible list and it's not in the critical skills, so it falls under general work permit. And what are the rules of you getting the general work permit? So the first thing is, number one, the job, you must have a job offer first for you to apply for the permit. So it is not the permit that comes before the job, but it is the job before the permit. Then number two, the job must pay you at least 30,000 euros per annum, which with the current conversion rate is approximately approximately 3.7 something million Kenyan shillings per annum. So then the employer, there's a rule that the employer must meet, that in the company, 50% of employees in that company must at least be citizens from outside, at least be citizens from the EU. It should not have more non-EU citizens working in a company than EU citizen. So I'll put in the link below the list of the ineligible list, so that you can look through and you can see, like, looking at your profession, where does your profession belong? So sometimes your profession might be in the ineligible list, but it doesn't mean that you cannot apply. There are those exemptions whereby the employer has just failed to get an employee, even though the profession appears in the ineligible list. Then also, you might check today in this link and find that, for instance, a job like some technician job appears in the ineligible list. For instance, a beauty technician appears in the ineligible list, but tomorrow it might change. So these lists keep on being updated. Like 3 days ago, or I think like last week, there was an announcement, like in Ireland, before you could not come as a home, a home care worker, like, just doing general work in people's houses. But due to the need for home care workers, the government decided to release 1,000 work permits, to give a provision of 1,000 work permits for people just to come to Ireland on condition that they will be paid a minimum salary of 27,000. And there are other roles, for instance, the role of customer care or customer service representative. These roles are on the ineligible list. However, there's an exemption. The exemption normally comes in on the language issue. For instance, it's a customer service position, but they need a Swahili speaker. So the fact that they need a Swahili speaker, and in Ireland, Ireland and the EU, you are less likely to find an EU, like a native European who speaks Swahili like as perfect as somebody in Kenya or Tanzania or Uganda will do. So in that case, even though the job is in the eligible list, you might qualify for a work permit, based on the fact that there was this special language issue. So I'm just giving a scenario that there is company X that needs a customer service representative who speaks Luo, for instance. So in that case, if you speak Luo in Kenya and you see such kind of a job, you can apply, because the company now can successfully apply for you a work permit. And the work permits are normally processed, like, it depends. Some companies will want to, help you to apply for the work permit, whereas some companies will want you to do it, and it costs 1,000 euros, which is around 127,000 Kenyan shillings. And it's a 50-50 thing. Like, you might get the work permit or you might not get the work permit. But for you to get the visa, number one, you need to get the job. Number two, then you need to apply for the work permit. Then number three, you need to apply for the visa once the work permit is granted. Then that way, you'll come to Ireland. Then you have to register with the local immigration, to get the resident permit, and then take up the job. So tip for the day: when you're looking for a job, make sure that you have looked at the list of the ineligible skills. Where does your job belong? Where does your skill belong? What skills do you think that you have that are not affected by that list? Then number two, when you're looking for the job, keep on looking at that list. Don't give up. When you look today and you see, for instance, you are in the hospitality industry and you find your role within the hospitality industry, for instance, hotel managers is in the ineligible list today, it doesn't mean that it will remain there forever. Maybe in the next 3 months, there might be a high demand for people within the hospitality industry. And that is how you get into, the list gets updated, and every time, they keep on changing. So thank you very much. In the next video, I'll be talking about the critical skills employment list. I'll be describing about the list of these jobs that are considered as critical, and the ones that will earn you express sponsorship when you come to Ireland. Thank you.